suspended 6 games. And oh, the hue and cry, oh, the people who were upset. But I told you from the onset, 60% of the lawsuits, most of the lawsuits against Deshaun Watson were fake. There was no evidence. It was trumped up by Tony Buzbee, who basically worked the media to the last second. All right? But the bottom line for you numbskulls who can't accept the truth is this. This is nothing more than a variation on some type of, catfishing that somebody might do using the internet or any other kind of fake news in the internet. That's really what this is all about. These lawsuits were made up. It was a shakedown. And there are aspects of this case that are completely ignored by most of you because you were just so stupidly bloodthirsty and and wanted to see a black guy in trouble. I mean, let's be honest about what this has to do with. It's about racism. This started because Deshaun Watson decided he was going to open his big mouth and say, "Hey, I want you to treat me like one of your management team members," and that wasn't happening. Okay, that wasn't happening. And you can get upset about it, but that's what was going on. They wanted to teach Deshaun Watson a lesson. They wanted to say, "Hey, boy, okay, hey, boy, you can't act like that." That's all this was about. All right? That's all this was about. Excuse me. This is about this is about the Texans ownership. This is about the Texans ownership trying to teach Deshaun Watson a lesson, saying that you can't act like a white guy. You know, the one thing that I've noticed as I approach 60 by Thursday is how much of life is consists of somebody else trying to make up crap about someone else. Okay? Or the degree to which they'll lie about themselves just to make themselves look good. The lengths people will go to just to tell lies about other people, in this instance and in many other instances, to maintain racism. That's what this is about. Remember, going into this, Deshaun Watson was a saint. Okay? A saint. He could do no wrong. I remember we were laid over at Houston for a brief time on the way to Vegas for CES, and the Texans were in the playoffs. And the restaurant was packed with people, some Houstonians, some travelers, all NFL fans. All of these folks waiting to find out what Deshaun Watson was going to do in this playoff game next. And all of the fans, even if they weren't fans of the Texans, fans of Watson, okay? Deshaun Watson had the world on a string, sitting on a rainbow, okay? And thought he had the world by his fingers, but he didn't. Because when it came to having a new coach, he wanted a black head coach. Deshaun Watson wanted a black head coach. Eventually, the Texans got one, all right? But Watson wanted a black head coach. He wanted say over his working conditions. And that was too much for the Texans. And he said, "Okay, so if you're not going to do that, I'm leaving. Trade me." They had just paid the man $127 million. So the Texans are thinking, "Oh my gosh, we're going to lose our $127 million. We got to do something to get our money back and save our stupid jobs." So what did they do? They concocted this scheme knowing that he was getting massages from these different women, knowing that there was only a handful of them, but decided to concoct this scheme and then join on with women through Tony Buzbee, who wanted to make him look bad. That's why they turned to Tony Buzbee. Tony Buzbee engineered all this. He engineered the women. He got them together. All right? And that settlement that was paid out, quote unquote, you know, Tony made money for himself, less the women. Maybe the women got a little bit. Maybe you got okay, 1,000 here, or 5,000 there, or 10,000 here, or something like that. But if you think that any of these women got millions of dollars out of this, you're a freaking fool. Okay? That didn't happen. They got a tiny little payday to walk away, lest a full-on, full-blown trial expose the fraud that existed with this whole damn thing. And if they had pushed it, it could easily have been turned around, all right? Peanut Butter says none of the loose women got any real money. No, none of them, all right? But isn't it amazing how much Tony Buzbee got in the head of the mainstream media? And people, I think Tony paid some of these people. I think Tony paid Pro Football Talk to put this crap out there. Because they were dutifully, and you and I both know it, they were dutifully coughing up this crap. Now, but meanwhile, which media organization said from jump, from the start, this was fake? Mine. Zinni 62 Media. Remember that, folks. I'm going to remind you of that every step of the way. Okay? Every step of the way. I told you this shit was fake. I told you Tony Buzbee's lawsuits were fake. I told you there was nothing. You wanted to believe the fake lawsuits. You wanted to believe the fake media. You wanted to believe the fake internet. You wanted to believe your stuff. And now you're mad. Boo hoo hoo. That's why some of you can't bother to watch me reminding you this. Too bad. I'm going to remind you of it. I'm going to let you know it. It's ridiculous. Tony knew he didn't have a case. That's why he got mad at me behind the scenes. Who's the other genius here? Tony Buzbee. Tony got away with manslaughter. Not quite murder, but manslaughter. Really, there should have been no game suspension, all right? Pete says, yo, Zitty, Miami Dolphins owner this morning checking on his pulse. Man, I'm so mad, buddy. I wish Miami pulled the trigger. I'll never forget this. Yeah, he should have, you know? Mr. Ross should have pulled the trigger, but he didn't. Okay? But how many times are you all going? How many times do things like this have to happen before you all actually start studying things? Okay? How many times are results like this going to occur before you bother to look? All right? He said, did Tony slander Watson's name? Of course he slandered his name. The question is, did Tony cause the slander of his name? Yeah. But Tony also did slander his name. I know. I've got receipts. Hell, Tony even told me to F off. Did I return the favor? No. I don't roll that way. Okay? Well, not all the time. But my point is, and the reason why I'm delivering this vlog from this position is because I knew this was going to happen. I knew it. Yeah, I'd have been shocked if it was actually a real, season suspension or some stupid crap like that. It's 6 games. 6 games is absolutely, precisely what it should have been. That's perfect. Why? Well, really, because there were a couple of instances, 2, where Deshaun should have known better. Okay? The lesson for Deshaun has to be, look, you're a brother with a lot of money, with a high position. Mind your P's and Q's. He says, why didn't he get time served for not playing? Well, he wasn't fined anything. So technically, he did. He wasn't fined anything. There was no fine to pay. He suspended 6 games. And look, the money he's going to make already. Listen, you hear that sound? You know what that is? That's the sound of every computer in the United States manned by a Watson fan ordering a jersey. His jerseys are going to go out the door, man. Out the door. Okay? That's what you hear. So, by the end of his 6-game suspension, this guy is going to make a ton of money off of sponsorships and jersey sales. 6 games is nothing. Tom Brady got 4 games. This guy gets 6? He didn't do it. There was no criminal indictment. Twice. And look at how many lawsuits Tony threw at him. This is really Tony Buzbee's loss. Always was. But see, Tony will make it look like a win even though it's a loss. The first indication I had that this thing wasn't going the way that Tony did was when he kept saying, I've settled the cases. I thought, let me check the Harris County database. You know what the database said about the cases? They were dismissed. Okay? See, this is where Tony takes advantage of your lack of knowledge about the law. This is where Tony Buzbee takes advantage about your lack of knowledge about the law. Okay? He says Deshaun Watson basically served over 30-game suspension. Look, don't try to make it something it ain't. Okay? Deshaun Watson, did he learn a lesson? Yeah, I think he learned a lesson. It's about the company you keep. Because Deshaun, I'm going to say this coldly and bluntly, learn that just because somebody is black and you're black, it doesn't mean that you owe them your money or your attention, because they will use that and take advantage of you. And that's what happened. I tried to tell that to Tony Buzbee, but Tony wasn't listening. You hear now, Tony? I tried to school Tony on something called the black crab barrel problem. What is that? It's the syndrome where those of us who perceive ourselves as less than other black folks who have money do anything they can, or we can, who react like that, I don't, bring down the other person to our level. That's why it's called crab barrel. And that's exactly what was going on with Tony. Those folks resented him. Okay? He needed to find a whole new group, a whole new crowd. Because of the fact the NFL mines for players from poor southern neighborhoods, for the most part, you're taking a kid from a poor background and you're bringing him into a wealthy environment and quite literally asking him to sink or swim. Some swim, others sink. Is it right? Heck no. They should all swim, and the NFL should have the equivalent a protective gear on them to help them last. But the league is using these men. The NFL is using these men, okay? Saying, we will pay you big money. The reality is, do they get some money? Yeah, of course. Is it more substantial in most cases they would get absent the league's existence? Of course it is. But does it then mean that they should be treated that way? The answer is no. Of course not. So the NFL's created this environment where you have coaches and management and some players who think of black folks just as players, not as authoritative, not as intelligent, okay? Not people who can run anything. And so what happens? Decade upon decade upon decade upon decade upon decade of relationships where you have black folks in the equivalent of a modern slave position of need. You're not hiring them as coaches, head coaches. You're not taking care of them after they play. They get CTE, they get debilitating injuries. That's what led Mike Ditka to create Gridiron Greats. That's what led us to the path we are today, where at this league's NFL annual meeting, at this year's NFL annual meeting here in Atlanta that I attended on behalf of Zenny 62 Media, what was all about? Minority Symposium. Getting black NFL players and coaches acclimated to what it takes to get a job. Stuff that, you should have learned in college. The secret handshake, okay? But is the NFL going to really take them seriously? I doubt it. You want them to, okay? But take a guy like me who designs football plays, who's never designed a play that didn't work, and then I'm talking to a particular NFL owner I've known for years, and he's looking at me like I don't know what I'm talking about. And I realize that this fellow doesn't know enough X's and O's to know what he's talking about. And here, if that NFL League Spring League meeting were really serious about finding black talent, someone would have said, hey, Zenny, we know that you have a playbook. We know that John Gruden has had his Raiders PR people wait for you because you have great plays. We ought to hire you. That's the way it's supposed to work. But it doesn't, because you have people in the league who are hardwired, by the way the league is structured, not to see anybody black. Even a guy who created his own media company is smart enough to do that. Now, is the league changing? The answer is a resounding yes. It's got to. Is there resistance? Yeah, there is. You want proof? Look at the way the Texans treated Deshaun Watson. Do you need more proof than that? Of course not. Cal McNair, son of my friend, the late Bob McNair, who I miss, and who's been badly mischaracterized. Okay? Badly mischaracterized. Bob McNair has never treated me in a way that would cause me to turn around and say, dude, you're racist. Okay? If I had asked Bob McNair for employment with the Texans, he would definitely have filed me a good job. All right? So my point is, just because a person is rich and white and male doesn't automatically mean they're racist. Again, just because a person is rich, white, and male does not automatically mean they're racist. Fortunately, more often than not today, if they're rich, white, and male, it means they're rich, white, and male. Okay? My point is this. The league is aware that it needs to change. And I really believe that this outcome, not a verdict, this outcome is a great signal to the league that it really needs to take a look at how it's conducting itself. I'm going to make a separate video about Tony Buzbee and how he handled this. But I just want to go back and make some little potshot videos about these numbnuts that are getting on Twitter whining about, where he gets it, where, whine. Remember, who told you? Who told you that this was not going to be a giant suspension? Who told you that these lawsuits were bogus? I did. Remember me. Remember my company. Remember Zenny 62 Media Incorporated. And don't forget it. Yeah, we are C Corp on the state of Delaware ledger. 1,000,000 shares of stock, all right? Do not forget Zenny 62 Media. We seek investors. I think it's a good time to join our team. Just email me at zenny@zenny62media.net. I'll be back.